in establishing norms of practice and standards of care that should be followed when carrying out physician-hastened death. The following factors should be in consideration. Allied healthcare professionals must be protected, including physicians and nurses and other allied professionals, in such a way that their decisions are respected and alternative options presented should not choose if they choose not to administer physician-hastened death. All institutions and physicians should be given the option to opt out of providing physician-hastened death, granted they are willing to provide a referral to this service. And I echo some of the comments that Carolyn made about the transition to another setting. In the palliative care units and hospitals, there will be physician-hastened death. They may not have those people do it, and maybe somebody else to come in to do it. And in home-based programs, I can see it happening quite easily. In our residential hospices, of which there are 80 in this country, their process is around not to hasten death, and they're asking for a site exemption. And keep in mind that most of them don't receive much government funding, and that they are charitable funded to the most percentage, and they're actually wanting to make sure that the community that raises the money for residential hospices are actually following their wishes. Just have a few bullets. The CHPCA is calling on the federal government to consider a national federal strategy or framework for hospice palliative care that would work towards ensuring universal access. Protection of Canadian healthcare workers and sites in the hospice palliative care field, including the option for them to opt out of providing physician-hastened death should they choose to, but that they would refer to the appropriate place.
Ms. Baxter, if I might ask you, you mentioned there are 600 hospices across the country, I believe.
600 hospice or palliative care programs, either home-based, hospital-based, or hospices. Okay. And only of those, 80 are residential hospices.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. With that in mind, thinking specifically now about Bill 52 in Quebec, I'm wondering if there is anything you could share with us already in terms of how the hospices are reacting to Bill 52, and if there's something we might learn from that right now.
Thanks for asking that question, because I didn't fit that in. So the 29 residential hospices or residences in Quebec formed an alliance and have gone to the provincial government and have been given an exemption for sites. So it's sort of something for you all to think about if you're looking at site exemptions for hospices that was granted in Quebec. Interestingly, one of the hospices medical advisor has ALS and pleaded to them to let her die in her own organization, and they have agreed that when the time comes they will perform the physician-hastened death in that one hospice, which sort of throws everything out when you have, all the hospices standing together and then this one, but it was made on the right decision for them. But generally the hospice programs in Quebec, because $2 to $3 million of their money is raised from their community, it's not government funded. They do get some government funding, but like we're talking $500,000 over a $3 million budget. They have to be connected to their communities, and that's where they get their money. I think that we'll see how this all goes over time. I mean, right now that they're standing firm in Quebec, the rest of the provinces are challenging themselves. The boards of directors are meeting now in light of not knowing what the legislation is going to tell them. They're trying to figure out whether they'll, generally saying that they would prefer to transfer out, but we'll see where that all goes. And that's just the residential hospices. The rest of the hospice and palliative care programs are really quite knowing that if they give the best care possible and a patient wants physician-hastened death, that they will refer to the right people.
Then, thank you. The piece that you mentioned about the hospices in Quebec gathering together to opt out of the Bill 52, but when push came to shove, one of their own members wants to die in hospice, and that's what I mean, we love hospices. That's what I think, that's the ideal place between home unsupervised and an emergency room gurney. For people to be in hospice, they're already receiving the palliative care. Why wouldn't they want to have access? And it's a choice. They may not take it, but if they want it, why wouldn't they have access to that in hospice?
You know, it's a case that the hospice people believe in a philosophy that they don't hasten death, and this is something different. They do believe that their patient and patient-centered care has to be prominent and be, they're not saying they won't refer one. It is a difficult question. Every one of the hospice programs in this country are struggling right now with their boards of directors and their staff and their volunteers. And the one in Ottawa, the Maycourt Hospice, has 400 volunteers. And these people volunteer their time, their money, and their energy because they believe in the philosophy of hospice and are saying, but you're going to allow somebody to die here, whereas they could send them to the civic hospital and whatever. I'm not sure what the answer is. I don't have the answer. Somewhere you guys are going to have to come up with some answer.
Thank you.